This morning, I noticed that I have a lot of grass that is germinating all over the place. I was talking about I got this perennial grass over here, and this perennial grass, it's it's a perennial grass that grows via its root system, right? There's the above ground roots, and then there is the below ground roots, and it propagates itself. But I've noticed none of this grass has gone to seed yet. None of this grass has gone to seed. Most of this grass actually ended up dying because it was so dry and it was so hot. But I had a bunch of, it was effectively just hay, just sitting on the ground. Now the grass is starting to green up. And I have a lot of new grass that's germinating. And the new grass that's germinating, it's probably some kind of an annual grass. It does look like it is some kind of an annual grass, and so that's very good. If I got a mix of an annual grass and some perennial grass, that'd be great, because the annual grass, the whole thing about annual grasses is that ryegrass, Johnson grass, stuff like that, they tend to have higher feed values than perennial grasses. And so I would anticipate that here within about a month, the animals just start eating less feed. If they're on a bunch of grass, they will eat less feed, and when they eat less feed, I'll cut their feed back a bit. But the whole thing about right now with the animals' diet is that I'm just giving them one square meal a day. I'm making sure that they completely eat their fill. I just whistled through my teeth. I just make sure that they I had a lot of my mouth was real dry or something. But I just make sure that they have a one square meal a day, and then I give them one square meal. So if they, with all this grass coming in, these animals will probably eat less feed, and I will cut their feed back as they eat less and less, and also their manure will start to turn green. Their manure is still brown. And when they eat a bunch of dry feed and they eat a bunch of dry grass, they're gonna, their manure is gonna turn brown. And so, probably within a month, their manure will start to turn green, and they will start eating less feed. And when they eat less feed, I will, cut their feed back. And that'll save me some money. And if I got some annual grass coming in with the perennial grass, and it's a mixture, the feed values of the grass, granted that I fertilize it properly, and over the next month or two, the feed values of the grass will be about the same as the grain. And so maybe I switch them over to a little bit of distiller grains instead. I start mixing in distiller grains with their feed. And I was talking about this, I'm probably not going to feed my animals straight distiller grains. I'll probably just end up mixing a bit of the distiller grains. Maybe I'll give them a 25% distiller grains and a 75% feed, and I'll just give them one square meal a day. I just let them eat as much as they want for one good meal a day. When these animals get finished eating, when I get finished with this and the animals are done eating, I check their bunks to make sure that they more or less ate everything. They may have left a little bit, but that's fine. I want them to, if they leave a little bit, it's better than if they lick their bunks clean. Okay, so I want the just to have a little bit of feed left. But if I start to notice that there is more and more and more feed that is left in the bunks, I will start cutting their feed back, because they're probably eating more grass. And I would anticipate that here pretty soon. The feed values of the grass will be about the same as the feed values of the grain that I'm giving them. And when that starts to happen, I'll start switching over the a bit of their grain daily intake to distiller grains. Because if these animals are eating 90% of their diet in grass, and the grass is of good feed values, right? Like if the grass is of decent to good feed values, at least 65% TDN and at least 12 to 14% protein, if that is happening, and they eat 90% of their diet in that grass, if you just give them like 3 or 4 pounds of grain a day, and that's all you give them, it'll put on like an extra half a pound. And that's also what I mean by once these animals are eating about 90% of their diet a day in a good quality grass, once the animals are eating about 90% of their diet in a good quality grass, if you just give them a little bit of grain, you can actually turn your grain into a tax deductible asset that makes you a positive return. But the reason that I was feeding my animals so much grain was because the grass conditions were very not good. And so at one point I was just feeding them a straight dolomite lime and distiller grains, right? I was giving them distiller grains with a little bit of dolomite lime in it, and I was feeding them that. And I think I had one animal get sick on that, because I just kept changing up their diet. I would give them distiller grains, and then I would give them, the beef builder, and then I switched them back to the distiller grains, and I think that's what caused them to get sick. And I put them on antibiotics, and I gave them, 2 shots of antibiotics, and then I put him back on this stuff. And he looks like he's doing completely better now. His head tilt is completely gone, and his appetite is back to normal, and he's not dragging behind. He's with the herd, and he's walking around, and he looks like he's back to his normal self. And I will keep him for another month before I sell him, just to make sure that he's completely okay. And right now I don't need the money, okay? Right now I don't need the money. If I need money, I will liquidate animals and I will reinvest my earnings. The whole thing about it is next week I will be taking my animals in for their vaccinations, for the first round of vaccinations. And then for me to give them their booster, I need to wait about 3 weeks, and then I can give them the booster. And I always give my animals 2 rounds of vaccinations, okay? I give them an IBR, Virus Shield, and Covaxin 8. And that puts a lot of immunities in them, tetanus, blackleg, IBR, BVD, all that good stuff, okay? And so I always make sure to put 2 doses of the vaccines in the animals before I cut them loose. And then and usually by that time, if they have 2 doses of vaccinations and they've been preconditioned properly, they're effectively good to go. And even if they get sick, if you get on it real fast and you get on it and you get on it properly, they'll probably get better. And right now I actually realized something about my business is that I have less than my death loss is about 2 to 3%. My death loss right now is about 2 to 3%. This was something I didn't, it just the idea popped up in my head a couple of days ago, about 2 days ago. Yesterday I was thinking about this too. A couple of days ago the idea popped up in my head, and yesterday I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what, that is true. My death loss right now is about 2 to 3%. And so that's fantastic too. That's fantastic. I'm losing on average about 2 or 3%. And sometimes you bring home a sick animal and there's nothing you can do about it. Sometimes sometimes you do bring home a sick animal. Sometimes the animals pick up a bug at the sale barn, and it's a rough situation, and it just is what it is. But right now my death loss is between 2 or 3%. And I figured, this is something interesting that I could, discuss, that I believe that will help more people understand more of the idea of a business and evaluating a business. Because a lot of people, you need to understand that you don't need to run a business to do well financially. Even if you invested into a business, and even if you just went in the right direction for a long period of time, you would still. That's still a reasonable way of making, good sums of money, large sums of money, okay? You don't need to run a business. I mean, you can invest into a business. And, here's something that, this will help people, develop an idea of this, of just evaluating a business. Because the thing about, you don't want to be in a situation where you miss every opportunity in your life. That's where you don't want to be. That's what I call going in the wrong direction completely, right? If you're going in the wrong direction and you're doing ridiculous things and you miss every opportunity in your life, and the next thing you know, you're just, you're some resentful, envious, just, massive pile of problems. That's not good, okay? And even if you don't want to evaluate individual businesses, right, I discussed the idea of the S&P 500, right? The S&P 500 is a very, it's a very diversified investment, but it's just one investment. You don't, if you just buy the S&P 500, it's like putting all your money into one investment, but that investment is a good investment, okay? And so, the idea of evaluating a business. So let's say that you got two situations, right? Let's say you got 2 businesses, and you're taking a look at these 2 businesses, and business number 1 makes $350,000 a year, and business number 2 makes $500,000 a year. So you're taking a look at these two businesses and you look into the details of this business and you realize that business number one, 2 years ago, the revenue was $35,000. And 2 years later, the business is now doing generating $350,000, right? So you take a look at that. And then you take a look at business number two, and you take a look at business number two, and business number two, maybe 2 years ago, they were doing 400,000, and 2 years later, now they're doing 500,000, right? And then let's say you take a look at these two businesses, and you say, well, I want to invest into one of these two businesses, right? So you go and you find the owner of the business, and you speak to business owner number one, the guy with the person with the $350,000 a year revenue business, and you talk to this person, and this person you discuss their business with them. You just whatever, just tell me about your business, right? And you just want to know about the business, right? So person number one, you ask them what they're up to. You just want to know, right? You just find it interesting and you just want to know. So the person number one, let's say that they made $350,000. They invested, they just flat out tell you, I invested whatever. Business owner number one says, I invested 250% of my income into tax deductible assets, and I generate my revenue. I generate the revenue, and when I take leverage, I leverage against the valuation. Let's say you got two cattle ranches and you're looking into invest into one of them. So, in the business number one, the owner says, well, I invest about 250% of my earnings into my business, and when I invest this money, I leverage against the equitable evaluation of my cattle herd, and I use the monthly cash flow to float the debt. And when I take a look at my business, I am leveraged for about 80% of my cattle herd, but in terms of my cash flow, it's all effectively just free. It's all effectively just there. I don't use effectively any of the money that my business makes. I don't use hardly any of it. Right? That's business owner number one. The business owner number one makes whatever, $350,000 a year, invests 250% of the earnings of the business. 93% of the cash flow of the business is just there, and he's leveraged against about 80% of the equitable evaluation of the herd, and he's using 7% of the money that he makes to pay for debt and to pay for living expenses. And then you got business owner number two, making $500,000 a year, and 2 years ago they were making $400,000. And you talk to business owner number two, and business owner number two is just oh well, the market went up, and that made me more money this year, right? Business owner number two, that's what happened. They ran the same number of cattle, but the market went up, and so they made more money this year. Okay, and that's effectively how they made their money. All right. Even though business owner number two may technically make more money on a piece of paper. On a piece of paper, if you don't understand what is happening with the business owner number two may technically they're not making as much money, because business owner number one is investing several hundred times of their income back into the business and is only leveraged against 7% of their cash flow, and is leveraging against a stabilized asset, which is their cattle herd. Technically, business owner number one, even though they're making $350,000 a year, is making drastically more money than business owner number two. Drastically more money. And this is something that I think that a lot of people don't understand. And this is also, but it just is what it is. It's the truth. Okay, it's not an opinion. Money's not an opinion. It just is what it is. Business owner number one, even though on a piece of paper they're making $350,000 a year, they are making drastically more money than business owner number two. And the evaluation of business number one is substantially higher than business number two. Substantially higher. All right. I mean, we're talking about, business owner number two may have a $1.5 million business. They may have about $1 million, $1.5 million. If we want to be really nice about it, I mean, maybe they have a $2.5 million business. But business owner number one, even with that $350,000 revenue, I mean, we could be talking about a, $10 or $15 million evaluation. I mean, we're talking about 5, 6, 7 times more money than business owner number two, even though business owner number one makes technically the owner does make more money, but technically the revenue is lower than business owner number 2. And that's something that I feel like is a reasonable way to develop more of an understanding of how to evaluate a business for more people. Business owner number 1 makes drastically more money than business owner number 2, even though their revenue is lower. All right. And when I talk about my business, here's the thing. The last thing I want is an opinion from somebody who's a borderline bum. All right. That's the last thing I want. Your opinions aren't worth anything to me. I'm being completely honest about this. I mean, if you have a legitimate way of improving the whatever, right? Improving whatever, then the last thing I want, and I talk about this in terms of a financial sense, a majority, and like when I talk about this stuff, I'm not like being a malicious person about it. I'm not being a prick about it. All right, it just is what it is. Money is not an opinion. All right, money is not an opinion. Almost everybody in the entire economy is technically closer to being homeless than they are anything like this. It just is what it is. It's a statement of a fact. All right. And, I don't ask for opinions from anybody. If I need to ask somebody, I ask me. Or I go on the internet and I'll read some kind of a scientific published paper. I'll read something that is based on science, and I will read into it. I'm not going to go and ask somebody who's practically a bum for their opinion. All right. And I think that this is also something that gets me very far in my life. This is also something that, gets me, that pushes me to do better in life. It pushes me ahead and puts me, in a spot where I, objectively do better as time progresses. All right. And so, when I take a look at my business, here's the thing. And I talk about growing my business to about $1 million a year, right? I'll be pushing my business to do $1 million net a year. I'll be netting $1 million a year. And this is also what I mean by don't bet against my business, all right? Because, or you can if you want. If you legitimately want to, then you can. You're allowed to do whatever you want. It's a free country. Just understand that, I call my balance sheet the Diamond Castle. That's what I call my balance sheet, the Diamond Castle. And I don't want to give myself bad juju, but I call it the Diamond Castle. Because my whole thing about my life is that I don't spend money. Like I don't have 5 Lamborghinis, and I don't have a mansion. But I think a lot of people have a difficult time understanding that businesses have equitable evaluations, and I'm not calling my balance sheet the Diamond Castle because it bragging about it. I call it the Diamond Castle because maybe, when I call it the Diamond Castle, more people will understand, what they're looking at. Because for whatever reason, I think in reality, a lot of people this stuff just does not get discussed very often. This stuff, is effectively things that just don't get discussed. And so, this is not stuff that you learn in school. All right. And chances are, if you don't go out of your way to learn about this stuff, you're never going to figure it out. You were not born with the answer. Chances are you're not above, intelligence IQ. Chances are you're more or less average. All right. Me, I'm more or less average. You got to understand that this is not just magically happened for me one day. I legitimately had to spend 15 years of my life. My first 12 years of my life, I did not get paid anything, hardly anything. All right, but I also did not hardly lose any money. That's the thing. Learning all this stuff, it didn't cost me hardly any money. The books were free. Buying fertilizer was a couple $100s. It doesn't matter to me. It didn't cost me a lot of money to learn how to do this stuff. It just took a long time. All right, and I was not some information sponge. This stuff, it took a long time, and I didn't start getting paid until my 12th year. All right. And so that's why I call my balance sheet the Diamond Castle, because a lot of people, it's like you don't even understand. You probably have no idea that when you're looking at my business, you don't even understand that, I may have legitimately made something like $10 million of net worth in the last 365 days. You probably don't even understand that. Most people don't. I guarantee it. Like, when you're watching my business, you're not sitting there going, I would bet that this guy made something between 5 and 10 million in the last 365 days in terms of net worth. You probably don't even understand that. Most people don't. And I've always said that the thing about money is, why would I care? All right, I'm rich. I legitimately make such a tremendous sum of money running these cattle that it put me in the very top percentiles of the entire economy. And here's the thing of what I mean by when I say don't bet against my business, or you can if you want, but I would suggest that you don't, is that, and I've been talking about growing my business to about $1 million net a year by early next year. I don't think it will even be difficult for me to do that. It won't even be hard for me to do that. It won't even be difficult for me to grow my business to $1 million net a year. It won't. All right, it's not even going to be difficult for me. I don't think it'll even be difficult for me to go to $2 million net a year. I don't think that will even be that difficult. I don't think it'll be that difficult for me to go to 2 million net a year. All right, and it just is what it is. I'm not lying about it. I'm not being a doofus about it. I don't have anything to prove to anybody. You're allowed to have your opinion. I make a tremendous sum of money. All right, just understand that I make a tremendous sum of money. I don't even know exactly how much money I make. I don't. I know I make a lot, and whatever it is, I can already buy it. It doesn't matter to me. All right, I'm being completely honest about this. By early next year, my business will be at about $1 million net a year, and it won't even be difficult for me to get there. All right, I would say that going to 2 million is not even going to be that difficult for me. And so, it just is what it is. The price of feeder cattle could go down for the next 5 months straight, could go down for the next 5 years straight, and I will still make it. That's what you're looking at, and you probably have no idea. And I'm not bragging about it. I'm not lying about it. I'm not like schizophrenic. I'm not like delusional. I'm just being completely straightforward, honest about this. I'm just being completely straightforward with you about it, right? It's the truth. All right. What am I working on my business right now? I'm building the foundation for leverage. That's what I'm doing. And here's what I mean. By about March of next year, I would anticipate that by about March, I will be ready to leverage myself. And what do I mean by leveraging myself? Well, I will probably have about 70 cattle, and I will have grown my herd from 40 cattle to 70 cattle, from 42 cattle to 70 cattle by just reinvesting the earnings that my business makes. I will just take the money that I make from selling my animals and reinvest that money. And if I do that over the next 5 months, I will end up with about 70 cattle, maybe 60, 70, something like that. And if I have 70 cattle, chances are they are going to be worth more than 70 cattle, because I would not have dumped all the money into my business at the same time. My animals will be appreciating, growing in value, granted that I am doing my part. And so if I have 70 cattle, they'll probably be worth more than 70 cattle. So chances are, if I go and I take a loan for 70 more, it won't even put me at 80% debt to equity. It probably won't. All right, maybe it'll put me at about 80%, maybe. But if I take a loan for 70 more, now I have 140, right? And let's say my 140, out of my 140, I'm still selling 10 a month. And I'll be selling 10 a month, about 10 a month, for the next 7 months straight, until the 70 animals, whatever that I have purchased, have been stabilized and grown to 800 pounds. Okay. And so if I'm selling 10 out of 140 cattle, those 10 cattle out of 140, and I would still be at an 80% debt to equity ratio, right? That 10 cattle will be like it's somewhere between 5 and 10% of my herd. So I'll be selling 5 to 10% of my herd on a monthly basis. And now I am appreciating 140 cattle at the same time, right? I'm not appreciating 70. Now I have 140. right? And those 140 will grow in value, granted that I do my part. I am looking to build out a new preconditioning facility early next year, all right? And, I would say, probably by about March, I'll also be paying out dividends to people. By about March, I will be paying out dividends. Once I redo my loans, I will be paying out dividends. And, right now I still got to, recuperate all my costs. I still got to put another $25,000, maybe $30,000 into fixing up properties so that I can actually even run cattle on them. And so, by about March, I'll be paying out dividends as well. But it won't matter because the sheer amount of money that I make is going to be so large that it won't matter. I'm telling you, it won't matter. And here's the thing: when I talk about this stuff, I'm not like schizophrenic. I'm not like crazy. Okay, I'm not like I'm not delusional. I'm not bragging about it. I'm not whatever about it. I'm just being honest about it. I don't think it'll even be that difficult for me to grow my business to $1 million a year. I don't think it'll even be hard to grow my business to $2 million net a year. I don't think it'll even be that difficult. It probably won't. And my whole thing about it is I'm going to try. Okay, I do have a couple of fail safes in place to if I start making such a tremendous sum of money that it turns into a situation where I need to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars a month into my business, and I'm in a situation where I can't do that. I do have a couple of fail safes. I can invest with straight debt and hold on to the cash, etc., etc. I do have a couple of fail safes that I can trigger if need be. I will have a couple of fail safes that will trigger if need be, but I am going to try. I am going to try. I am going to dump all of a majority, about 98%, maybe 95% of my earnings, because I need to pay for my mortgage, and maybe I'm buy myself a new truck, etc., etc., here pretty soon. But I will be dumping all of the money back into the business, effectively all of it and then some. I will at least try to do so. If I can't do it, then I will start holding on to the cash and investing with straight debt. If I have to do it, I will. That's one of the fail safes. Oh yeah, and this is one of the things, I talk about this, I've talked about this all the time. If running your business is not like, I've always said that in terms of running my business, the only thing above running my business to me is God. I don't sell my soul to the devil for money. I don't sell my soul to the devil at all. I'm not going to do it. In terms of like, I'm not going to sell my soul to the devil for money. Why would I do that? I already have plenty of money. I make plenty of money. I can already buy anything on the entire planet. What's even the point? Why would I sell my soul to the devil for a piece of paper, right? And the whole thing about, with everything, if your business is not effectively near the very top of your priority list, if your business is not, and actually, I'll put it this way. Let's say that you've decided to just grow your business by 20% a year, and you're going to, really push yourself to grow your business by 20% a year. That would still be fantastic. If you just increased the size of your cattle herd by 20% a year by reinvesting your earnings, and you raised some kind of a number 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame beef animal, okay, commodity type animal, some kind of a beef animal, and you increase the size of your herd by 20% a year by just reinvesting your earnings and using, your earnings to make sure that happened, okay? If that was all you did, even if you only did that for a long period of time, you would still end up making a large sum of money. A large sum of money, and chances are, even after a certain point, you won't be able to do it anymore. You probably won't, all right? It will become too difficult. A lot of you, once you hit about, and I'll use my life as an example of this. Like, if I was not going to, because the thing about me is that the amount of money that I make is so large that if I even thought about spending a small fraction of it, it would effectively turn into a situation where I would have to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a monthly basis. And even by the time I spent the money, I would have made multiple sums of it back. That's the situation that I'm in. I cannot spend the amount of money that I make, even if I would, it's not reasonable to spend the amount of money that I make. And it's also important to understand that my money is going upwards all the time on an exponential curve. I legitimately do not believe that it will be difficult at all for me to grow my business to $1 million net a year. Probably even 2 million won't even be difficult. All right. And so, with all this going on, right? If you're effectively, if you're in a situation where you spend money and then you invest what you have left over, that's not good. Okay. Your top priority, other than not selling your soul to the devil for money, like don't go and, tell yourself you're starting a business and then, come up with some, scheme, some plot to sell your soul to the devil for some small amount of money and then call that your business. You don't want to do that. All right. You don't want to be in a situation where you're whatever, you're going to go and sell your soul to the devil for money. And then, you're going to make some small amount of money. And then call that your business. You don't want to do that. Okay. Number one, and I've always said the whole idea of like, what's a realistic example of, going on a magical journey with your buddy Pow Pows, or even by yourself going on a magical journey, is leveraging yourself to the eyeballs and then throwing a Hail Mary into the middle of nowhere. You don't want to do that. That's like the number one example of what I use to, like not going on a magical journey, because if you do that, chances are you're going to fail. And when you fail, you will lose so much money that you will never recover. All right. What's another, going on a magical journey? Buying a bunch of bad assets thinking that you're going to save the ship. That's not, chances are if you do that, you're going to go down with the ship. All right. And then you will lose all your money forever. Okay. Stuff like that. You don't want to be in a situation where you're doing stuff like that and then telling yourself that you run a business or you want to get into business. Okay. Running a business and investing into a business are two completely separate things. And so, with all this, if you're, you need to make it your effectively your top priority. You need to make it your top priority to grow your business by 20%. If that is what you have chosen to do. And the thing about running a business and the thing about running a farm is that if you run a farm, you're running a business. Okay. You're running a business. You have to understand this. And if you're not working on growing the business, then why are you running a business? Why? What's the point? Right? I mean, what's the point? Why are you running a business? Take your money and invest it, somewhere else, like in the S&P 500. Why would you run a business if you're not going to work on growing it? If you're not going to work on improving it? And that's the thing about running a farm, is that you're also running a business. All right. You just have to understand that it just is what it is. And so let's say that you're going to, it doesn't have to be 20%. It could even be 5%. It could be whatever. It could be a number that you decide. 10%, 15%, 20%, whatever it may be. But let's say that you have 100 cattle, that you ran 100 cattle for the year, and you're going to, grow your business by 20%. So next year, now you're going to run 120 cattle. If you ran 100, you would have to make sure that you're effectively your top priority for your financials, other than not selling your soul to the devil. Don't sell your soul to the devil for money. But other than that, you would have to make sure that your priorities for your money was to grow your business by 20%. All right. Make sure that happens. All right. Have capital left over. If you have some debt loss, you can reinvest some of the earnings to recuperate that debt loss. Buy everything that you need for your business. Make sure that your business is growing, and then invest, and then spend the money that is left over. Right. That needs to be more of your mindset. A lot of people, they don't even care about their business. They only think about their business as a way of making money so that they can go and do something else. They're not sitting there going, I'm going to work on my business and I'm going to grow my business, and my purpose of running the business is to make the business do better. A lot of people don't think like that. A lot of people think of their business as a way of doing something else, going on a magical journey. I fell out of heaven at 7, stuff like that. All right. But that's, but me, if I did something like that, I would have such a large amount of money left over that I couldn't, even right now, I told myself I am going to at least try. I will attempt to invest all of the money that I make and leverage against 80% of the valuation of my cattle herd. But even even right now, if I put $2 million in a hole and I lit that money on fire, it wouldn't mean anything to me financially. It wouldn't mean anything. I would reasonably anticipate that even $2 million, there's a very real possibility that by about the end of next year, I get pretty close to about $2 million net a year. And I don't think it'll even be that difficult. All right. And I'm being completely honest about this. I'm not, but I'm gonna focus on the 1 million first. And then when I get there, I will do 2 million. Okay. But I don't think, but 1 million, when I take a look at it, I'm so close to the 1 million already. I would realistically anticipate that I get there within about 5 or 7 months. It probably will not even, it's not even going to be difficult. All right. I would guarantee that I make it legitimately. It's not even going to be complicated. I've already got everything. It's just, I've already got everything in place. It's just right around the corner now. All right. I get to 1 million I guarantee it. All right. If I don't get there, in 7 months, it'll maybe take me 10 months. Granted that I don't get like hit by a tornado or anything like that.